Okay, this is a kite line mount that I made. You'll have to excuse the dirty great big holes in it, but basically it's just a lightweight piece of plastic. In actual fact, it was the bottom of a kid's punch bag stand. So that was the foot plate you stood on, the centre part is where the stand went. So ideally you need something that your kite lines can go through and a point to mount it on. So this hole here, obviously I've butchered it a little bit because I was just messing about anyway, and this hole here shouldn't have been this big, but this hole is where you would put the mount for your camera. So at the bottom of any camera, or the case for your camera, if it's like a GoPro case or something like that, will mount on top of here and the screw will come up underneath. But you need to make sure this area here is low enough so it will screw through to your camera. And then these three holes here are where your kite lines come through. The only thing I would do is make sure that they're not that abrasive like these are, because I don't know, it might affect your lines. I've had this on my kite quite a few times and it didn't do anything, so just bear that in mind. But try and find a strong, lightweight piece of plastic, and it's got a bit of thickness to it because there's a lot of pull on your lines, so you don't want the piece of plastic to break. I did try some other bits of plastic, and as soon as the tension came on the lines, it just snapped. One thing I have found with this is on different kites, this will sit differently because your lines go from a point out to a V. So in effect, what this actually does on mine when I've used it is it means I can move it from being quite close to me to quite far away, and wherever I set this, it will actually stay, because when the lines are tensioned, the force of where it's coming down and up won't allow it to go any further. But the reason I've done 3 holes is because it stops the piece of plastic from flipping. Okay, because I found if you only did 2 holes, there's so much movement in it, but if you put 3 and you put the kite line, I do it where you put the kite line underneath, so it comes out of this one into this one and then back out of that one. And the idea that it goes underneath here is because if it comes over the top, the line's got a tendency to be above the camera. So if you're down here and you can imagine you've got a piece of line coming up here, your camera is going to see that, whereas if it's underneath, then there's less line to actually see. Also, when you put this together, you've got to think, when you launch your kite, you normally launch the kite in reverse, so the red is on the right, whereas when you turn the kite over, so just think you've mounted this way, it's on the floor. When your kite turns, so will this. So you need to think which way up you want this to be prior to having it. Now what you will notice with this is, because there is a little bit of weight in it with your camera, sometimes I've seen other people do it as well, they have actually made it so the camera is upside down pointing at you and you can see the lines to a certain extent, and that happens because the weight of it will pull down a little bit on your lines. So just bear that in mind. But with this one, I've trialled it a few times. I've set the camera up, put all the lines through it. You will have to thread your lines through it as they go up towards your kite, so it's one of them things you'll have to like take it on and off. Bit of a pain, but it's worth it when you've seen your video. But I set this up so the camera is upside down, so when the kite turns over, this actually ends up upright. Okay, so 3 holes, sturdy bit of plastic. It's got a little bit of flex in it, as you can see. Don't want too much flex because otherwise it will probably snap. But try and have something in like a V shape as well to follow your lines. I wasn't too bothered about this because it sits down on my North bar and lines, but it does work. And I'll show you some video if I've got it somewhere with this actually on the camera if I've not deleted it. Ta.